Live from the Android's Dungeon and Baseball Card Shop, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Well, hello, Nick.
Hi, we're kind of in our element today.
We are. We're in a nerd paradise.
Yeah.
Or at least it would be if that fat old guy wasn't constantly glaring at us.
Yeah, I think he wants to just buy something.
Yeah, apparently. I always want to thumb through some of these before I check them out.
Or thumb through slowly all 20-some pages. I mean, not that I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, and baseball cards, which apparently are a thing still.
Yes, apparently. But, I don't know, this whole town is a little off.
Yeah.
You notice, all the yellow people?
Yeah, there's a definite, some sort of vitamin deficiency here.
Apparently. Although I'm sure...
I'm not even sure what state we're in.
Although I'm sure that lake that was nearby that was green probably...
Yeah, with that three-eyed fish.
Yeah, that probably didn't help things for this...
I'm glad they're trying to be, have the nuclear power plant and not use coal or whatever, but...
There's some drawbacks.
There's some drawbacks, yeah.
Yeah, they might get burned. But anyway, welcome, folks. This is a very special episode, our 60th episode.
It's a big deal.
Yes, because it's a nice round number. And it commemorates our 5-year anniversary.
Wow.
Woo! So we'll have this as big a to-do as, say, our 50th one. Which,
that takes a lot to do.
Yeah. Yes, it does. But it's cool that we've been able to do this for this long.
Somehow we've been just plodding along, and we just keep coming with ideas.
Yeah,
we're trying to
do our best. We'll see how long we can keep this whole thing up.
Yeah,
and maybe we'll get into talking about that in our story school. So, our very first topic, Nick, was endings.
Endings. Yes, that's where we began because it seemed ominous.
Appropriate,
yes. Not ominous.
Maybe ominous, who knows. But today we're going to talk about series...
Endings.
Endings, but particularly in terms of like a series or a sequel.
A franchise even.
A franchise even, yes. Because we live in an era of sequels and series and franchises.
What?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to see this movie, Scorch Trials. Oh no, that's a sequel.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, everything is okay. Not everything. It's a little overstated.
Like James Bond. No.
Yeah.
There's that Hunger Games.
Well, yeah. Oh, and there's Doctor Strange just coming out. So.
Well, there's a new remix album from Final Fantasy 9.
Okay.
So this is only episode 60. Anyway, so as you probably have known, there are series and franchises
all over the place.
Yes. And if there isn't, someone is desperately trying to resurrect something that has died.
Which, fun fact, Nick, back when we first started this podcast 5 years ago, that I think there were only 3 movies in what is considered now the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now.
Really?
Yeah. Only first 2 Iron Mans and Incredible Hulk. I think those are the only ones that had come out when we had started in 2010.
That is kind of nuts.
I could be wrong, but and then at that point we had no idea that we would ever see another Star Wars.
Yeah,
movie.
now we're going to see like Star Wars from now until eternity.
Yeah, from here until eternity. That's like a Star Wars romance.
Yes. Well, remember in our 50th, we said that's what we're going to basically turn a whole side podcast into, wasn't it?
Oh,
analyzing Star Wars movies,
all different Star Wars movies.
Episode 27,000.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Anyways, so endings.
Yes. So the question is, how long is too much? I mean, granted, we like a lot of these series that we're poking fun at, but when does a series feel like it's beginning to overstay its welcome?
I think it's easier to start with series that kind of have a built-in timer. What I mean is things that the way it's set up to keep it going feels like you're just keeping it going. I mean, like, if we had our bingo card, Lost.
Yeah,
okay,
I was thinking the same thing.
Is that this is our favorite example here?
For everything,
it's a neat show. Everyone loves it. They're doing cool things, but it needs to end because the setup of the show itself demands that there is an ending.
It had to have an expiration date.
Yeah. And I think, so first thing you tackle are shows like that. There's some shows you just like, Smallville. At some point it has to end because he can't stop not being Superman until he's 40.
Yes.
I mean, when you set up, prequels are often like that.
Yeah. And I expect Gotham will run into the same thing before too long here. And
that people start getting antsy because they realize,
like, hey, this is leading up to something. Where's the thing that it's supposed to be leading up to? Yeah, I think Lost is a perfect example of, how many showrunners have come to the studio and say, look, you got to pick a day that you're going to end this thing.
Exactly.
Most other series like, oh, we'll keep making our crime procedural until the world ends.
And you always have this battle between the people who want to keep making money off and the people who say, no, the story's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to hammer the sequel thing too long. We've talked about it in other places. But, things like Toy Story. You feel like Toy Story 3 brought an end, a circle to it.
Yes.
And now they're trying to make a 4. And I'm like,
yeah.
Because
I'm a little worried about it. Because it'd be the first one without Andy, and that seems like it's changing a lot. I mean, they've done really cool things with the Toy Story shorts that they've done.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see them at another kid's house and the new adventures they run into. But yeah, I'm with you.
I think the thing with endings, we want to get this. Okay, stepping back a second. We want our favorite shows not to end inherently.
Yes.
We try to find ways for them not to.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're almost constantly finding different ways to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes we do drastic things like, hey, Toy Story stops being about Woody, Buzz, and Andy and starts being about just toys in someone's house. Maybe. I mean, I don't know what they'll do with it.
I think I heard somewhere that it was something about finding Bo Peep.
Okay.
Which is that was sort of plot thread they had just left dangling. And I could see them picking that one back up.
But we have that's the thing. It's hard to kill off a well-loved series, TV show, book, because not just because it makes money, but because people like the characters.
Yeah. In movie franchises, particularly, it's almost like you have to go bad before you can stop.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And even then, like, it encourages people to try again. Like, Aliens, the franchise went bad, a while ago. And then let's try to do something else with it, with Prometheus. And
from what I understand, James Bond has gone bad a couple of times.
That's true.
And they just keep...
They kind of but like you said, reinvent the wheel.
And that's the thing this tricky thing with saying when it should end, because we've now created series like James Bond, which is not really... It's different than like a Lost, where it's like, here's all it really is like, here's a spy genre with certain extra things that have to be in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like spy movie plus more, Shaken Not Stirred and James Bond and a couple other things.
Uh-huh.
And some gadgets. So it's almost like we switched some of these longer series from being beginning, middle, end to almost a genre within itself.
That's true. For the most part, you're not looking for a whole lot of continuity between Bonds, although the exception is the Daniel Craig movies.
Yeah.
I think there is sort of a progression of a character from movie to movie with his Bond, which I don't think you could say had really been done much before.
Yeah. But the thing is, probably, and my guess is, when he's done being Bond, that'll probably be the end of
that Bond.
An arc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes
a new Bond.
A new Bond. Yeah, it's seeing story not as beginning, middle, end, but seeing story as reinvented archetypes.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way to put it. Or kind of encapsulate, this is an era of Bond, and then you kind of tie it up in a bow.
And shows like that, I'm not sure you can put an end date on. I mean, I'm not sure you can say, here's when it should end. You might say, here's where we should stop for now. For now.
Yeah.
Because the creative juices the cultural tensions that made that version of Bond, that version of Doctor Who.
Yes, I was going to say, but Doctor Who is another keen example of this.
And honestly, Doctor Who is one of the few shows with a setup that I think
it's
theoretically probably shouldn't ever have a definitive ending. I mean, because it's basically go anywhere, do anything, change your main character. I mean, it basically is a
rewrite your own rules as often as you like.
I mean, it's like you got a handful of things that have to be there. A kind of a stylistic thing about kind of quirky and sort of thing. But besides that, it really is just. It's like one of those games or books where, you put the head on, you put a different body on, you put a different foot on, and, you figure out what you got.
Yeah.
It's like a word jumble.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just because you did dinosaurs in a spaceship doesn't mean that 10 years down the road you might not do something that's basically unicorns on a submarine line. Yeah, yeah. And you might, you won't call foul because that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's remarkable how many different stories they pulled out of that basic core concept.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are your examples of stories that don't necessarily have. So we have some that definitely have an ending, or should have an ending at least, and then you've got your kinds that don't necessarily
are so reinventable. I mean, they're so elastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ones in the middle
where you're not sure which way it should go.
A lot of the old TV, a lot of the old kind of Monster of the Week, like I use X-Files as an example of this, where I remember watching X-Files, my friend and I were saying, you know what, 5 seasons, how long this show should go. You were like, then you just you run out of good ideas. But I still kind of hold to as a general theme. Mm-hmm. But then there's some really great episodes in season 6 and 7 of X-Files. But then Mulder, the main character, wants to leave, and you're like, why are we still going? Because the dynamic, you can get away with doing, just different Monsters of the Week because you love the characters. You got these shows that are based on the characters, and if the characters stop being who they were, why are we still doing things?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of shows where you only watch for the characters. A lot of USA shows, like Psych.
Yeah.
Basically, the mysteries are just dressing for the characters to do cool things and funny things.
Right. I think some procedures work a little differently. It depends on the franchise.
Yeah.
Like CSI, there's a few detectives that stayed on, but I think they, the main guy, they flipped in and out a couple times, and even in that one, I guess it's just ending this, just like this season, or they're ending with like a TV movie or something.
Okay.
So, I guess it was just, that long in the tooth that it was like, I think we're done.
And I suppose those sort of shows, you don't even watch it for, it's so episodic. You only watch it you want a little Mystery of the Week.
Yeah.
I guess you just end that when people stop wanting Mystery of the Week. It's like, you stop doing Sherlock Holmes when either A, people stop buying it, or you're sick of writing it.
Yeah. More the latter with Doyle's case.
Yeah, exactly. Because why you watch those, you're not watching for an arc. You're reading them for, aha, that was clever.
Yeah. And I think some fans may have slight variations on that. I think NCIS shows do tend to be a little more. The only reason I've watched those is generally for the characters.
Okay. I have not watched much NCSI. NCIS.
Yeah, not that I'm huge. It's still like very popcorny to me. Not really popcorn. I don't know what the right word is. It's not quite soapy. It's not quite blockbustery. But anyway, the point is, I don't have really any interest in the NCIS New Orleans, just because for me, like, that's a whole nother one. I don't really need what they're pitching. Yeah. But I might pop into one of the other ones just to see what DeNozo's doing, or what Deeks is doing over in Los Angeles. The fun characters that you enjoy. Yeah. So there's a little bit of both there.
Okay, so far we've basically argued that there's lots of ways not to end a story.
So we should actually start talking about
why. Yeah.
Well, one more addendum to why not to end a story is not. Some people say that once they've told their best work, because in some shows it is good to kind of like do a big hurrah at the very end, and then end it. Yeah. Linkara, who does Top the Fourth Wall, but also has storylines in his reviews, in his review show, he recognized, he thought, he did one storyline that he thought was his best. Yeah. But he was also like, but at the same time, I don't feel like that means I should stop because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to top this one. It just means I tell different types of stories and, be creative with it. Oh, so just because you feel like you've done one of your best versions may or may not mean that that the well is dry.
And I wonder, looking from a writer point of view or a creator point of view, whether what should warn you about what to stop is when you really don't have any stories left, you're just regurgitating.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
And I think, to use a Lost example, they're like, look, we're writing dumb stuff now.
We're going in circles. We need to kind of have a goal point.
Maybe, and I don't know Sherlock Holmes' history much, but he's probably like, I've told the sort of stories I wanted to tell. Yeah,
that's pretty accurate for Holmes, I think. I know that was certainly a case where he felt like he was done. There was enough of a demand still from the audience that they wanted to.
Because I guess you could, like some of these procedural side things, you could keep telling stories, and they could just be copies or pale versions of other stories. And the audience might keep buying it. Mm-hmm. But from a creative point of view, you might just be like, but all the stories of this type worth telling, I've already done. Not that they're my best. It's just there's nothing interesting left to say. Mm-hmm. That's not just workmanship. Not just like I'm just throwing things together because that's what it just happens. You can do it in your sleep.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes the audience does fade off too.
Yeah.
There's certainly that. Like, I think, again, let's go to Law and Order. It's another show where they the main characters changed a lot over the course of how long was that show on? 19 years,
Something
I think.
like that.
But at a certain point, when a show becomes that old, it becomes a little too old hat.
Yeah.
So then you're it's not, when you're not the cutting edge, and that's a big deal in TV world too, when it's not what the key demographic, the 18 to 39-year-olds are into, then maybe time to move on.
Because a lot of the ways we're arguing to keep a show on largely were around infusions of creativity. Yeah. One way or another. You change the director, you change the actor, you change the tone, you change, you update Battlestar from 70s cheese to post 9/11.
Yeah. We mentioned earlier, maybe if there's a middle ground between shows that should have an ending and shows that don't necessarily have to, and then the ones that are a little murkier.
Yeah.
I kind of think a lot of people view the Muppets themselves in another way. Another bingo for Derailed Dreams of Thought bingo. Because a lot of people think that, it's never going to be the same as when Jim Henson was alive, which granted it won't. It's, it changes. And whether you like some of those changes or not may depend on, whether you think they should just kind of call it quits.
Yeah.
I think they've done a lot of great things. I'm very interested to see what they do with the new show as of this recording. It hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But obviously they've talked a lot about sort of reinventing who they currently are.
Yeah.
And so that's a show where it's kind of, you never know. And for some of their TV show projects, they haven't had a really, I'd say a huge, successful series since The Muppet Show.
Yeah.
So, that's the case, and that's the case where the creator himself said, we're going to stop right here before, because we feel like we're ready to try new things. Yeah. He was always about trying new things. And since then, there hasn't really been a, Muppets Tonight, for example, is a show that they kind of figured out what they were doing as they were going. But with modern TV, it's hard to have enough time sometimes and then you don't really have a chance to end it on your terms.
Now, at the beginning, here's an interesting question.
Okay.
At the beginning of this whole conversation, we talked about how many sequels there are, and we keep reinventing and rebooting, and we've talked about that in other podcasts. We say a lot of things you can reinvent and keep doing James Bonds, whatever. You think maybe would there be a benefit in, though there could be more stories, say in some long-running series, we should kill it anyways, just so that we can try something that's not just constantly reinventing the wheel? I mean, we always complain that there's so many sequels, there's so many whatever. Would it benefit the world if we had the power to just say, let's just stop 50% of these sequels and reboots and not do any of those? Would it be better?
I'm sure some people would say so.
Well, yeah, but would it be?
I don't know. I think it's really hard to say. I mean, part of the reason we have what some people are calling a new golden age of television right now is this serialized storytelling. And even in terms of movies, I find it very fascinating. It's interesting, the backlash. I think we talked a little bit last time in our Take on Tales about how there's sort of a backlash against the Marvel Cinematic Universe in terms of the surprise of it is gone. Yeah. It's easy for some people to just see the corporate side of it. But for me, I'm as a fan, I'm but this is what comics are like. You have these ongoing stories. You have characters that appear in, each other's books. It's a perfect comic book adaptation, universe adaptation, if you ask me. So I don't think, I don't know. I think it's hard to draw a line, which sequels are. You don't know sometimes what sequels aren't going to happen until you make them, or aren't worth making until you make them. If that makes sense. Be there
one. Sometimes people talk about there should be some sort of reboot of. I'm not going to say it, Lost. Someday maybe we could do something. Well, you shouldn't.
Yeah, no.
But but that's what reboots are sometimes. We'll just take an old thing and we'll make it new. Yeah. And it's completely different. But sometimes I'm just arguing. Could we stop reboots and start doing things that are? Does a Lost exist in the world? A new Lost exists in a world that only is rebooting old stuff, a new equivalent, a new this is completely different than anything.
It'd be hard to even imagine it as Lost. It'd be like a whole.
Well, I mean,
are you talking about different characters?
No. Well, okay, that was a bad example. I mean, originally some people were talking about use the island, but
as a location, then a new batch of.
But then my question was, Lost came out of the blue. It was a new thing. It wasn't a reboot of anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
if we killed more long-running things, do you think it would help people try new startling things, or do you think there's enough of that going on anyways alongside? This is highly theoretical.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm of a split mind about it because Pixar is a good example of this right now. Because I think they've purposely said they wanted to do, at some point, I think they said they wanted to do a new movie every year and a sequel every other year or some sort of schedule like that. Yeah. And I don't think it's quite worked out that way because filmmaking is not quite that easily schedulable.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of people that would wish that they, wouldn't do some of their sequels and that they would just do original stuff.
Yeah. I tend to be that way.
Yes, which I kind of do too, although I really do want to see another Incredibles movie. So again, though, that's the thing, which movies deserve the sequels and which ones don't. It's, I don't know.
Let's reverse it real quick. If we have time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, everyone always talks about Firefly.
Okay.
And that died too early.
Uh-huh.
Is it beneficial to Firefly to have died early?
Oh, man, you're asking for it here.
And I really don't know, but
I know where you're going with it though, because there's something to it's like the person who dies young. I mean, even Jim Henson has this to an extent.
Yeah,
a person dies young, they become sort of immortalized, and everyone looks at their stuff with a fresh perspective because they didn't get a chance to work on other things. Whereas if Jim Henson had gone on to do something better than Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, I'm sure people would look at those and be like, "Nah, they were a good start." Yeah. But because that's all we have, they become cult classics.
I guess, the trick with having anything go on, and Firefly didn't have to, is that continuing something is very complicated. And I think that, like you said, there's a lot of benefit in saying to try something, even if it fails, is not necessarily a bad thing. To try a sequel, to try even if it's not as good, if you come with an artistic integrity.
If there's a story there, yes.
Yeah, there's artistic integrity, and not just
we did this for the money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure you can measure that either way.
Yeah. As much as it would be cool to see more stories in Firefly, we don't know if they would have kept it the same quality or if it would have been vastly different.
Well, I know, just to bring Lost back in, Dan Lindelof was desperately hoping that they'd get canceled and they would only have about 12 episodes so he could be like a cult classic. Because he's like, how am I supposed to keep this going?
Yeah.
Which was the question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they experimented a lot of different ways to keep it going. Many of them were successful. Not all of them were.
They tried all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And, and in some ways I wonder, I guess, I never thought about this. If the sequel forces you to be even more creative, it might be worth not ending. Mm-hmm. But it might be worth ending if it does not force more creativity.
Yes. If it's going to hold other things back.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's something Brad Bird complains about on Twitter a lot. Adaptations and missing original stuff.
Yeah. Which I can,
and I understand that. I understand. I'm not wild about Disney doing live action remakes of a lot of their old movies.
Because you're kind of going through, reboots at least, or reimaginings, like when Battlestar gets converted or stuff like that, you're at least using kind of it's like myth. You're using an old type and you're applying it in new ways, and that's, maybe
sure,
it's almost like a structure in which to form and creative. Like, sonnets. It's 14, they're 14 lines, they have a rhyme scheme and everything.
Sure.
And no one says because you wrote a sonnet you're not being creative.
Right.
The form itself is the vehicle for trying to be creative, for messing with the boundaries and stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a different way to look at a sequel.
Yeah,
as a reimagining and putting those sort of creative limits on you. So yeah, there's that.
And the best ones that maybe should end but didn't, like the James Bond stuff, have really forced themselves to be different.
Now, you asked this earlier, and I went on a completely different trail.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what about series that ended well, that knew, okay, we've been going on for a while, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Obviously, we think Lost is one of those.
We like Lost, yeah. We're apologists for Lost.
A series that we think should go that direction very soon probably is Once Upon a Time.
I was going to bring that up earlier and forgot. So why do you think it needs to end? Because I think as a viewer, again, from Ryer's different point of view, from a viewer, you watch shows, sometimes you have this sense, let's end this thing.
Yeah.
What sort of things in Once Upon a Time?
Well, if you'd like to listen to the weekly hijack, we go into this in depth. But things we've talked about, there seems to be a lot of searching for new things to do with the characters.
And a lot of repetition.
There's a lot of repetition of ideas, and honestly, the whole show is about fairy tales. At some point, they need to live happily ever after.
Whenever you find yourself adding, this is talking about jumping the shark and things, but when you're adding things in order to get something new in and then just phase out and you add something new, like, let's add new characters this season, and then they all die off in 3 episodes,
Yeah.
Maybe
might be a sign that you're
false
stretching.
propping up.
Mm-hmm. Although, again, going back to our favorite, we've talked about Lost a lot, but they added characters intermittently throughout the whole thing, and
some of them worked really well. And so, I mean, I think again that's why it's hard to call these things, because sometimes they would try and they knew it didn't work, so they killed them off. And other times they kept them. They're like, no, this guy gave the proper impetus to our main characters. It didn't distract. It's not like it became the Faraday show.
No, that's true. They added new elements to it in some way.
I mean, it did kind of become the Ben show at points, but
yes. Well, Juliet, and then she added some interesting things. Yeah. Speaking, we're in the middle of season 2 now on our weekly Hijack rewatch, and I was thinking, we talked about the tail section. People may not have added a whole lot, but Ben completely changed the show in some ways. I mean,
it's hard, especially in something that's purposely serialized, like a lot of TV is nowadays, like certain book series are nowadays. Like Anne McCaffrey just wrote Pern novels all the time because those were what sold. And sometimes, and she finally had an ending. She finally had all the where's a Pern or whatever, how you pronounce that. And it was the ending, and they fixed stuff. And yes, but there were like lots of books before that.
Yeah.
So you get the sense that there's no more interesting stories.
I guess in a series on the Doctor Who into things that was set up in such a way that it didn't really need end date exactly until the author passed away was Redwall. Because those books were kind of published. There's a chronological order, there's a timeline, but it doesn't really matter in what order you read them. They're kind of all over the place in the eras of the place.
And we've now in an era of storytelling in many ways where it's you create worlds in many ways. And Redwall is almost it just let's follow different people in different parts of this world. Star Wars, in theory, at this point, you could make stories forever.
Yeah.
If you found interesting angles.
Yeah.
Because it's just another place to tell stories.
Mm-hmm. I highly suspect we'll see the end of at least some of our original cast of characters in the new movies as they come out. Okay, a couple, because we haven't talked nearly as much as we should about actual finales that we liked. You followed The Office for a little while.
Yes, I watched about half of it.
Did you feel it was worth it after...
I didn't get to Michael Scott leaving.
Oh, you didn't get to that? Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Zach kept watching, and I think he said it took a while, but I've heard X-Files I stopped watching when Mulder left. Not just because he left, but also because I went to college.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say that if you can get past the fact that Mulder's gone is a different show, there's still good episodes. I mean, it's a different show, but it's good episodes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm really trying to think of other
Wheel of
series
Time.
finales.
I got through Wheel of Time.
Okay, well,
because it's 14 books long.
But I mean, that one is very definitely aiming toward a certain ending.
But yes, I just had to throw it in because it was it's like 20 years in the making.
Yeah.
I just got to throw it because it was working towards an end. It did the end. And what was so fascinating to me when I read the last book is that I got done and I said, I could read more books than this. The story was done, but the world was... There were stories that would easily follow from on other main characters besides your main one. And I'm like, this is a great place.
Okay. Interesting.
Now, it'll never happen. And that's fine because it probably shouldn't happen. But I know he had ideas for a plot line with Matt and stuff. And you're like, oh, man.
I think this question is a little more cut and dry when it comes to a series that's very clearly heading for a very certain point. Like Full Metal Alchemist, I think, had a very clear endpoint in mind. When you see the final product, you all the things come together.
Let me ask Arrow. You're on season 4 now? How do you feel about that?
I think they're about to start season 4.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they're going with Arrow, to be honest, because the ending of season 3 was unexpected. He was happy all of a sudden, and I wasn't quite sure where the justification for, because the whole, we talked about this again on the weekly hijack, but the whole thing they did with Ra's al Ghul's thing, I think, was not very well handled.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like they're changing a lot for this new season, which I'm curious about. I could kind of see an endpoint for that one, though, sooner rather than later. And And if only for the fact that they've sort of created a clock for themselves, I think, with the flashbacks.
Okay.
Because they've said he was gone for 5 years. And they've done 3, and I don't know for sure that they've covered 3 years in his flashbacks.
It could be.
But it could be. And it'd be, that's something that you can only do for so long before people be like, this feels like it's been for longer than 5 years.
I really feel like anything that has arcs of any substantial that last, that don't get reset every couple episodes. Simpsons, for example. I mean, anything that happens in an episode basically disappears by the next episode.
Yeah, there is no continuity.
Yeah.
It's like
but if
peanuts.
Exactly.
The kids never grow up.
But if there's any sort of progression, I think still what I said in high school with my friend that about 5 seasons, it's not a golden rule, but it's a nice number.
It is a nice number.
For a lot of reasons. Because you get past the first 2 seasons. Season 1, if you're good, is awesome. Or 2, if you're not good, you're finally finding your voice at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then 2 or 3, you're experimenting. About 4 or 5, you can really get some stuff. But you're also kind of getting old.
Mm-hmm.
And then people still keep going for all kinds of reasons, as we've said.
Yes.
We haven't said many reasons to kill it besides you just feel that it's done.
As with most writing things, it's all about in the moments. Just kind of you have to figure things out. The key is to be always evaluating, I think, where you are at in a certain thing, which I guess we kind of did with Story Project. We didn't know starting off that project how long it was going to be exactly. It could have, if we'd done things differently, added in more characters or something, it could have been a lot longer than 2 years.
And throwing in extra characters could have worked really well in that setting.
Yeah, it was a good setting for it. Yeah,
good. You could have easily had people transferring in and out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. But I think that we had just come to a place where we were like, for the characters we had, and they
all wrapped up wonderfully.
Yeah, and they all wrapped up pretty well, and we were just ready for another creative endeavor.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I think, and you never know, if we were in. If we had been so ambitious with Children of the Wells, possibly we might decide, let's wrap this up faster. But we have so much going in motion over at Children of the Wells that it's probably not going to end anytime soon.
No, exactly, and that's which will be interesting.
Yes, we'll see how well
we just crammed it full of plot. It'll just take a while to unwind, even if we don't add anymore.
Yeah, and there's plenty of room to add more.
And you could add on for a long time. And but when you feel like you're like, what can we do this season to make it exciting? You're like, but are you losing the initial spirit?
Mm-hmm.
I just finished season 3 of Falling Skies. There's 5 seasons. I think it just finally ended for good.
Okay.
Zach just watched it. He thought it wrapped up kind of quickly. But it's about fighting aliens. It's like Revolution, but way better. Anyways, they've done a good job so far of kind of keeping things moving. I feel like this next season, depending on what they do, is like, okay, yeah, we're about done finding the alien thing. But all right. That's not another sidetrack. So
yeah, so I just realized we were going really long. We've been going long on our story schools.
Well,
lately.
Then let's move on then.
Okay, so what do we have next? Oh, soundtrack.
There are certain series in the video game world that have gone on for quite a while.
And they managed to have a lot of good music with them.
Yes, and this is not Final Fantasy, oddly enough. This is Mega Man, has many, many games. There's Mega Man, and there's Mega Man X, and there's Mega Man Zero, apparently.
Are they like different universes or something?
Mega Man X takes place in the future from Mega Man, I guess. And Mega Man X Zero, I don't know anything about, but it's for the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
And then there's all kinds like Star Five. I mean, they all kind of handheld Mega Mans. Now they're like RPG-ish. But anyways, this is a song from Mega Man Zero 2 called Cool Mine, remixed by Dragonlord, and I just kind of like it. I dig it. So enjoy.
And we're back.
Hello. Hope your mind is now cool and frosty.
All this talk about ending series, it makes me thoughtful about our 60th episode here.
I know. I didn't really want to say it on air.
Well, do we have enough ideas to keep this thing going?
We're talking about reboots for like the second time.
Oh, yeah, that is a problem. And how many times did we talk about Lost just there?
I know. Okay, so we tried already. We already tried to add a third host, and that didn't go very well.
That's true.
Like the 50th. So that, we were trying, we could just change the format a little bit, maybe start adding more soundtracks, make it more of a radio show.
Oh, that's a thought. Do more soundtracks in the second half. The first half is just story school, second half soundtracks.
Yeah, then we don't have to work. So the story school is what we're having trouble with too. No. I mean, what else is there to talk about?
Yeah,
we've done all the important stuff.
I mean, there's all there is to say. So maybe we'll just go out here with a nice soothing soundtrack.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Okay, maybe not.
Okay, I think we'll come up with something. That's how things work now.
Yes.
Like,
we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. We'll hit 120 somehow.
And actually, I just remembered we actually have a huge topic list.
We do have a huge. Yeah, that's true. We can't ever get through it. So don't worry, guys.
We're here for a while yet.
You can't get rid of us that easily.
All right. If you're still with us and haven't thrown your iPod across the room, this
is Nick. Oh, no, not the ending.
No. We're going to go into a segment we haven't done in a while, sadly, and that it is a bit of story. Okay, as usual, Nick has got something interesting going on at worksofnick.com.
As usual, it's been silent there for a long time. But
well, I guess I should say, as usual, you've got more new written stuff going on than I do.
So I had this idea that sometimes I just want to write something that doesn't take much effort, because String Fred takes a lot of work.
Which, how is that coming, by the way?
I haven't done much in the last 2 weeks, because I was sidetracked with another minor project. On this, but never mind there.
Okay,
but besides that, it was going pretty well before the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
But this is just sort of, I thought, I'll just write this serial on my website. I'll just kind of lunch break or whatever, when I feel like it, write up about 500 words, and then send it out on the Ethernet, and then occasionally leave a poll so that people can help me decide what to write next. And then you should do a poll every time. I think that's what Tim wants.
I was just disappointed.
I know
one time I got on there and there wasn't one.
I was thinking about it. I don't know why I didn't that time, because there's stuff I could have asked. But anyways, so I call it the Wander now. It's purposely set up so that I can do basically whatever I want.
Whatever pops in your head.
Whatever pops in your head. It's called the Wander now because he'll kind of wander around from reality to reality. Like sliders, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
So I can, he can show up in String Fred, he can show up in Story Project.
Fun, I like that idea.
So I haven't got that far yet, because I got distracted with this guy in a cabin.
I did not know that.
Again, I went to get there, and then I'm like, oh, let's go to this cabin and see what happens. I'm like, oh, there's a guy in there. Oh, he has something on his back. I'm just kind of, but I all set up so that, like, it gets too deep in, I'm going to just have him move. I'm going to just be like,
move on.
Like, just taken away without him wanting to, so I don't build plot lines too much. So it's set up purposely to try to diffuse my...
So this is probably not going to be so much of a regular story, more of a experiment in progress.
Yes. Well, unless, of course, I defeat myself and make it into a regular story, which I tend to do. So we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, This is episode 1. Right. On worksofnick.com, you can go and find them. It's near the beginning, so if you want to get in and read, come join us. I'll try to do lots of polls because I think it's fun. It gives me creativity, and I think the audience will like it.
All right.
So this is episode 1, Crazy Old Coot. It was an interesting night. I was rummaging through my old comic collection because I was bored, and I was peeking in the nooks and crannies of my room and found a long white box buried in the back of my closet. So I lugged it out and started flipping through 90s-style Spider-Man and X-Men. You remember when Cyclops and Jean Grey got married and started hopping through time, filling the blanks of their strange time paradox family tree? I didn't really either. So I thought I'd read through issue 1 when some old guy walked into my room, saw the comics, and said,
"Oh, good. You'll understand."
I stared at him. I didn't know the man and had locked the door. But there he was, admiring my comics.
"Here,
He handed me what looked like an iPad. I thought maybe he was the meter reader or one of those guys who offers to waterproof your basement. I tried to sign the screen, but it was blank. What am I?
Inquisitive. Good. That'll help. Ask questions. Don't expect a lot of answers, though. But that's okay. It really is. I'm just getting too old for this kind of thing.
What kind of...
You don't have a girlfriend or a wife or something, do you? You'll have to say bye to the girlfriend, but I can rig up something for the wife if that's what you got.
We looked again at the box of comics.
No one did?
I take offense that...
Yeah. Learn to laugh at yourself. It'll save you a lot of heartache.
He patted his shirt and pant pockets.
Well, that's it, I guess.
He paused, wistful.
Oh, to be young again. But no, I'm happy now to have seen what I have. Enjoy it, young man, no matter what happens. It's a gift, all of it. Thank him every day, even if you're starving, even if you're lost, even if you're dying. Thank him. Yep. All right, I'm out. Bon voyage.
He disappeared into the hall. I rose to follow him, but he was gone. To be sure, I grabbed the lightsaber replica from above my dresser and stalked through the house, looked behind couches and under tables. I checked the locks on all the windows and doors and spent a tense 5 minutes in the basement lit by the blue glow of the lightsaber. I wasn't crazy. I'd seen the man. He was most likely crazy. That didn't comfort me. I lugged the comics to the living room and read them half-heartedly, my eyes rising continually for some shape I didn't see, my ears hearing every car and pedestrian and stray cat outside. It was nearly midnight when I convinced myself, after placing chairs strategically at the doors to help bar any intruders, that I should sleep. Teeth brushed, pajamas on, tucked in, I prayed as the clock reached the new day. That's when the beeping began.
Beep. 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 Oh, wrong podcast.
Anyway, so that was a fun story. I'm going to throw the comic book thing in because it's going to be a very comic book sort of story.
Nice.
So, and I remember reading the Jean Grey Cyclops time travel honeymoon stuff.
I was sure you had. That's kind of your era.
Yeah, it was. It was very much my era. So that was the Wandering L episode 1. Going till episode. Well, that's what we talked about tonight. When I stop being creative, I'll stop writing.
It's an interesting series, and we'll see. We'll see when the world runs.
It gets even crazier in the next episode or two.
Yes.
So,
all right. So that was our bit of story, and now we'll go into another one of our rare segments for our special 60th episode, 5th anniversary. In case you just tuned in, I don't know why you tuned into the middle of the episode, but moving on. Appropriately enough, this next segment is... Crackpot's Corner. Crackpot's Corner is when we come up with a crazy, kind of out there idea. Just throw it out there. Probably will never happen, but it's fun to talk about. If you've listened to old Crackpot's Corners, we haven't done this in a while, but if you gone through our podcast archives, you may have picked up that I have this fascination for the idea of reality shows, something...
Oh, yeah, we did a couple reality shows before.
Yeah, the idea of ones that kind of put you in the middle of the action and let you experience an adventure for yourself, which... Side note, I'm very interested in... I heard there's an escape room in Fort Wayne.
I did, too. I was just going to mention that.
Yes, I would love to try out the pirate one. Where, you're locked in a pirate brig.
And you have to get out. You got an hour to get out.
Yeah. I think that'd be a blast of the experience. But anyway, so remember that for my birthday.
Okay.
But the idea was... I'm picturing kind of because I guess Legends of the Hidden Temple and Guts from the Nickelodeon shows, I think were something that really inspired this. And this is something
the
I think...
Temple thing was great.
Yeah, the idea is something to be along those lines for the final challenge. Because both of those had, the mountain or the temple that you had to go through.
You remember that house? What was that one where you had to tear apart the house looking for something?
Oh yeah, was that Finders Keepers?
Maybe that's what I was going to say. That was fun too.
Yeah.
It was like a whole house.
Yeah, a huge house set that you had to tear apart, literally trash to find the one, whatever the treasure thing was. But in this case, I thought it'd be really cool. There's one thing we haven't simulated in any of these recreational things. It's like a dragon fight.
Oh.
So what if you had a big animatronic dragon or some sort of monster, whatever you wanted to do with it, covered it up, of course, with either inflatables, be Baymax from Big Hero 6 and that kind of inflatable robot sort of thing, or maybe pads, something like that, but something that would move on its own. And then you would have to probably climb it and hit like certain, I'm guessing certain weak points on it.
Nice.
Like, and then so it'd be
like Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, sort of Shadow of the Colossus, but like,
what if you had like a whole series of like Shadow of the Colossus sort of thing?
That's what it was like. Maybe like each week would be like a different. There'd probably be like 3 or 4.
It's like instead of American Gladiator, it'd be like Camelot Gladiator.
Yeah, and be like this week bring out the Tyrannosaurus Rex or
release the Kraken.
Yeah,
like in the water and you're all wet.
I mean, it'd be perfect too. If, like say, that worked too. I was thinking if it was a Nickelodeon show, you'd have to have it'd be like a slime monster.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It'd be like so they'd be scrambling just to stay on it because it'd be all slippery and because it'd be covered in slime and all this stuff. And I thought maybe you'd probably have to like theme it as like a challenge, like you challenge the monster because like that way it makes sense that the same monster comes back every time, and then you also don't have like animal cruelty. People's like, how dare you slay all these dragons? It's not how to
rescuing the princess up there on the it's all like role played. Do you see that when they had the reality show, like them being like fantasy?
I watched a little bit of the beginning of it.
Interesting.
I didn't get very I was intrigued by it, but it seemed like a little bit too much of a hybrid. Like sometimes like I couldn't quite figure out. I like the game showy sort of setting a little bit more, I think, because like the thing that drew me out of it is they started getting into like familiar reality show territory stuff where the contestants started arguing with each other about stuff. And like
the game show stuff's fun. Yeah,
I don't care about that kind of junk. That's usually my the thing that draws me least into that kind of stuff. But
okay, what if you combine this whole like you had so much time to slay the dragon and the kraken and the golem and stuff,
whatever,
and then you combine aspects of Ninja Warrior.
Okay, see, that's kind of what I was expecting for like the preliminary. Like you'd have to go through some sort of physical challenges
to reach where it lives.
Yes. Oh, that's a good thing. I was just going to go with like to be worthy of whoever would go after, or to be knighted or whatever. But that's a cool idea too. To like you're climbing a mountain or to reach it. That's
So and then you get different things. You climb the mountain. You have getting through this water. There's maybe a swamp for some sort of.
Yeah, some sort of double dared style messy game. Yeah. I think there's a lot of neat.
That would be genius. Why don't we do that?
The trickiest thing would be the animatronic monster thing. Like you'd have to have something big and robotic, but also save because you want it to be. It'd be kind of have like the whole bucking bronco thing you see at like restaurants sometimes.
I wonder, even you watch American Gladiators, the old one, they had like the guns with that would try to shoot them, and they'd have to run from thing to thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what if like the dragon, like first you have to approach it, and like it shoots stuff
so
at
you. Like dodge,
they'd like run, dodge, and then climb up it, and then you have some sort of harpies or something. I don't know.
Little fairies that are your excuse for like the wire harness.
If you kind of, like maybe have a battle in space against like Cthulhu.
Oh,
and then you're like on these. You're like this wire harness thing.
I think it'd take the whole challenge thing to a whole new level.
It'd be cool because then you could make it. It's half kind of this role playing. But it's also this physical challenge.
I think like a Japanese game show place would be all over this.
Yeah.
Did I ever show you what is it called? There was some I saw that it's like they've done stuff like this where like you're in a Egyptian temple or whatever, and like each room is like a different sort of challenge that you have to go through. There's one where like you have to answer trivia questions in the time limit. And while you're doing this, you're in this big machine that's wrapping like cloth gauze around you. So if you don't do it in time, you get completely mummified. And then they make a big show of putting you in a sarcophagus and stuff like that.
Oh, Japanese in their game show.
But like,
come on, that'd be awesome.
It'd be fun. So anyone listening out there, Dragon Challenge.
We need
perfect for Nickelodeon.
The Slayer or something.
Slayer, yeah.
Be like Hercules, 10 tasks or whatever. But it could be like these 10 monsters, and you'd have to get all the great mythological monsters there one way or another, and it'd be good stuff.
I think it'd be perfect for a physical. Yeah, and I like making it mostly a physical challenge sort of thing, as opposed to like the lame sort of. I mean, no, I like the trivia quiz sort of stuff
but that's
too.
not. I think this would.
It'd be better
with a.
It'd be better with the
Ninja
overall
Warrior
theme.
sort of.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my crackpotty idea.
That's great. I think we should make that happen.
Awesome.
So please, we're going to start a Kickstarter for a Dragon Challenge. Once we reach $2 million,
then we'll find someone to make it for us.
And as long as you donate at least 1,000, you'll be entered into a raffle to be the first contestant.
And I think it'd be like a fun roving thing, like, go visit each city, because you got your there's that, what's the one, inflatable, there's like a full inflatable marathon now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I forget what's it called. I mean, it's like, it's in the vein of Color Me Run, or
okay,
but it's like all inflatables that you're like, it's almost like Wipeout.
Okay.
So it'd be fun to people would pay good money to go fight the mechanical.
Oh, I would, yeah.
It'd be fun. And then, obviously make a cool TV show too.
Climb the rock wall and fight the...
Oh, yeah. All right. So that's our Crackpot idea. I think that's, we had a nice long story school. So
we had a good variety here in the end. So.
Yes. And it's been a while since we've done some of these segments, so it's been nice. Hopefully, we'll come up with plenty more ideas.
Yeah, hopefully you'll see episode 61. Maybe we'll just revisit. Maybe we'll just go back to the beginning and talk about endings again, and then we'll talk about
beginnings. Again.
Talk about time in the pocketbook, and
what was it? Artistic vision versus commercial versus artistic vision.
Yeah. Because most of you probably not listening to that one, so we'll just start rehashing. No one even know. Maybe we'll just jump the shark and we'll start talking about microwaves or something.
Review couches.
So Tim, this is a very nice chair we're in tonight. Just for a while, we're going to just start analyzing all the presidential candidates. And
I'm sorry though if you do go back and listen to some of those other ones. I'm thankful to say I think the audio quality has improved, because I did go back and listen to our endings one. I was like, oh man, we sound so much better now.
we're just. I was going to say something and couldn't get it out. That's all I got.
Well, at least we try to sound better. Yeah. When the whole stumbling forwards thing hasn't really improved.
No, that's basically just my MO. So.
Well, thank you for sticking with us through all this. And
5 years. Have you been here with us 5 years?
Give yourself a pat on the back.
Yes, you are long suffering.
And hey, why haven't you shared our podcast with us?
Yeah, we need to make an effort this year to double our audience.
I think it's doable.
I think it certainly is.
So if you enjoy this, tell someone you know. We don't want to be the only people promoting this thing. Tell someone you know that, hey, you should check this thing out.
Or at least give them one. We've covered a lot of topics already that they would really like.
Yeah.
Hopefully someday we might have some bingo cards to pass out.
Maybe we should organize some way so people can see at a glance.
Like a table of contents sort of thing. A glossary.
Yeah, a glossary. That might be useful.
Like if you like Lost, please listen to episodes 1 through 60.
I meant more like, okay,
if you like William Faulkner, please listen to 58.
We could compile all the genre shows. We talked about romance here, post-apocalypse, because the genre shows are probably easier for some people to get into.
No, with the highly philosophical ones.
Yeah,
like existentialism and you.
Or who owns a story, really? I think that's a very vague topic, I think. But it was an interesting discussion, it really was. We promise.
Speaking of, we just tried topics. We don't have to. I don't know if we're going to get 20 minutes out of this or not. And
we usually do.
We usually manage somehow.
But in case you've forgotten where to share these stories, send them to derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com.
Share them to Derailed Trains?
Point them to.
Oh, point them to. Okay.
You can share them to. I don't know.
I thought you were sharing podcasts to our website.
Anyway.
Or time to end this. Okay, so you can also subscribe to iTunes or Stitcher.
That's right.
YouTube.
YouTube.
And join us for Weekly Hijack, which is a lot of fun and much shorter.
Yes.
Especially if you like us, you like Lost.
Well, and you might also enjoy Once Upon a Time
and we'll start Doctor Who. Which, I guess we'll have first Doctor Who out by the time this comes out.
Yep. Lots of good content out there for you to enjoy. Meanwhile, we'll close out here with my soundtrack choice. As of this recording, the Final Fantasy IX album from OC Remix finally came out, which we've been looking forward to.
I thought you were going to do a remix from Madden Football. There's 8,000 of those.
No, Final Fantasy is our MO. And honestly, we've been looking forward to this album probably about as long as the podcast has been out.
They've been promising it for that long.
Yes.
And it ended up being
good. It was most likely worth the wait.
Yeah.
And and I picked a song with, again, long-lasting series like Final Fantasy. One of the most recognizable themes is the victory fanfare. Well, that one too. But, how many times can you hear the fanfare and remix a lot of times?
You can hear it about once every 5 minutes when you're playing.
Yeah. Well, I meant, how many different ways can you do it? And they've done it a lot of different ways in OC Remix.
And most of them are good.
And most of them are good. And the one for the Final Fantasy album, Worlds Apart, is no exception. Their remix of the Victory theme is called Bossa de Victory. And it's by Callum Bowen. And it's
a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, all right, the owner of the store has really been thinking we're the worst podcast ever, is what he told me during the break.
And I think we might, I'm starting to get the sense as a creator that it's time to end this thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Just for today, anyway.
Just for today, yes.
So, all right. Until next time, this has been Tim.
This has been Nick.
Goodbye.
Adios.